Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 97. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Deb Smith. She's all about creating a wealthy life through her blogs, humor, and instincts into life. Hello Debbie.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. I know the clan here is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business?
Yeah. So I've got a really interesting background. I always worked in the corporate field, and for many, many years, over 20 years of my career, and the last business that I worked in was helping retailers on what they want their customer strategy to be and then how to deliver and measure that in their retail environment. So my role in that was doing business development and as an account director and operations manager. So I got to a point where I was just working so many hours, and though I got paid incredibly well, I really just got to a point where I didn't feel appreciated anymore. And I had a bit of a burnout. So I decided that something needed to change. And sometimes we get to a point in our life where, well, I certainly do, I've got to get to a point of burnout before I'm willing to make a decision to actually do something drastic and make change. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was having a conversation with my brother. Well, it was at Christmas time, and I just said to him, I'm at my wit's end. I want to leave my job. I just don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and to be in your early 40s and just be at a bit of a standstill and not know what you want to do is quite a scary place to be honest. So my brother is a mortgage broker, a finance broker, and he's actually my twin brother. So we do have a lot of similarities, though I like not to admit that. And he said to me, you'd be really good at what I do. You buy real estate all the time. You're really great with numbers. You're great with relationships with people. Why don't you consider, being a finance broker? And initially I kind of thought, oh God, I wouldn't know where to start. I'd be hopeless at that. But then once I actually started thinking about the nuts and bolts of what that meant, I had to bring it back to what are the things that I love about my job that I currently do. And the things that I loved were building relationships with people, problem solving for clients and helping them with, how to, get the right outcome for what they were looking for. And so the more I thought about this, the more I thought, well, hang on a sec. The beauty of being a finance broker is I get to help people. And that's something I love doing. And outside of my corporate job, I always had something on the side, whether it was mentoring teenage kids or I did relationship counselling for a while, because I just felt like in my job I wasn't adding anything to society. I wasn't adding anything to the world. And it was this corporate job that, in the scheme of things didn't make a difference to real life, And so I thought, you know what, bugger it. I'm going to just quit my job and do this. And so I went and got some qualifications and I haven't looked back. And I think the great thing about the step that I've taken is, number one, it was probably one of the bravest things I've ever done, just to go from earning a really high corporate salary to nothing. Isn't it interesting for your ego?
Wow. Ooh, you are so brave.
Yeah, so my ego took a bit of a hit. But now I look back, and though it was scary, it's the best decision I ever made. And, I probably work as many hours as what I did before, and I work really hard. But the difference is now I'm actually helping people achieve their dreams and creating the life that they want to create through real estate and investment in property. And so it's really, really rewarding. And I'm actually now really grateful that I got to that point of burnout and had that meltdown. Or if I hadn't gotten to that point, I wouldn't have made this decision,
Wow. Is that the decision you can tell your niece or nephew tomorrow that, if they come to you and say, Auntie Adaib, I'm just tired, I want to just pack my job, I'm going to something new. Would you give them that advice?
Well, do you know, it's funny you should ask me that, because I have a stepson that's 17 and a half, and he's in his final year of school with 5 months to go before he finishes. And he's never, ever really loved school. He's struggled in that environment. He's more of a creative kind of kid versus academic. And only 3 weeks ago, he came home and said, I can't do this anymore. I just don't want to go to school anymore. I hate it. I just want to leave and I just want to go and get a job. And I had to stop myself for a minute, because the first thing I wanted to say was, don't be stupid. You've got 6 months to go. Like, are you mad? 5 or 6 months to go. Like, all of these years you've hung in there, and yes, he's struggled, but, and then I had to check in with myself and go, okay, he has struggled the whole time. If he's not happy, maybe this is the right thing. And I think when you're young, I know my mum pushed me into going and doing nursing at uni because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be a nurse. I dropped out after 18 months and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to force this kid to do something he doesn't want to do. So I said to him, I'll support your decision, but my expectation is that you are going to go and get a job or go and do an apprenticeship or do something. Don't leech.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I've got a really good recent story to that, and I really encourage young people, because I think that's the time when you have the opportunity to do something you love, and give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, you can always do something else.
At the end of the day, he's only 17. If it doesn't work, he will go back to school.
Exactly, and It's not the end of the world. And to know what you want to do at 17 is just so hard.
Well, both of you are brave. Okay, Debbie, why do you do what you do? I know you say you love helping people, but initially, really, let's be honest. Why do you do what you do?
Because I love helping people. It really is. My husband actually said to me, this is the perfect job for you. You get to help people and you buy them presents and you get paid to do that.
Wow.
And it actually... You know what? It really is that simple for me. I have a job now where I get paid on commission, and I'm very transparent with my clients. I let them know how I get paid. I let them know how it all works, and I don't mind doing that because I want them to understand, number one, what they're doing and what that means for me, because I'm offering a free service to people. So, let's be honest. You're going to sit there and go, well, what's the catch to this? I do love helping people, and often people say, well, how much commission will you get paid for this? And I actually don't know. I don't know what all the different banks pay me, because that's just not my focus. And my theory is, if I do the right thing by people and I look after people and they're happy, then the rest is going to happen for me. And that's exactly how life works in my view.
Okay.
And I always buy a gift for them once they buy a house, and I love buying people presents.
Let's put man aside, Debbie. How do you know you are successful?
Do you know, that's a really interesting question, because what does success equal? And I think if you asked me that 15 years ago, I would have said to you that it's a whole lot of material things. It's having a car, it's having a nice house, it's going on nice holidays, all of those things. And it's funny how you mature and how you grow as you get older. And, these days to me, success is being happy, and happy is different for everyone, right? And don't get me wrong, I love material things. I love earning good money, and I love buying beautiful things and cars and going on holidays. And I'm not going to pretend for a minute that I don't love that, because I do. But to me, it's about making a difference. And that's why I love what I do, and I'm passionate about doing that. And if I think about even before, when I did my corporate job, everything I did with kids mentoring and volunteering and relationship coaching and counselling, it was all about making a difference. And I often, and this is probably a pretty weird thing to say, but I'll say it because I am pretty weird, I often think when I'm dead and people are talking about me at my funeral, what are they going to say? And what do I want them to say? And so therefore, do my actions deliver what I want someone to say when I'm not here anymore? And what I want them to say is I made a difference.
Wow. Okay. But Debbie, can anyone be an entrepreneur, or some people are more cut out for it than others?
Yes. Well, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, isn't it? And I think that, there's pros and cons to both, right? If you go and work for someone, and I've done both, so if you go and work for someone, you get your regular monthly income and, you've got some security with that, I suppose. But for me, what came with that is not being able to be real, not being able to do everything the way I thought was right to do it. It was about complying with other people's processes and direction, which I struggled with because I'm not a yes girl. So the thing I love about having my own business is, yes, I can do it my way. I can make choices. I can make changes. I can do anything I want, really, which is an incredibly empowering freedom. But, I guess the con is that then from a financial point of view, and I work in a world that gets paid commission, which is can be tough. But again, I think, when you're doing the right things by people, then the rest just follows. And that's always been my philosophy, and that's how it's always worked for me.
Okay, Debbie, you've been in the business now. You started as an investor in properties, and now you are in online blogging and enjoying your life. Did you ever have a mentor or a coach to help you along the way, apart from your brother?
I wouldn't call my brother my mentor or coach. He just suggested a new career. Let's get that clear. Yeah, look, I have. I think that you come across people in your life that are instrumental. And I think of one man that made me think differently, and it was a manager of mine probably about 13 years ago. And I was driving past a car showroom every day, and there was this gorgeous little MG convertible car. And I said to him one day, I've been driving past this car every day. It's so sexy. I want that car. And he said, well, then you should have that car. Go and buy that car. And at this stage, I'd just come out of a marriage. I was single. I was, I think, 29. And, I thought, you know what? Maybe I can have that car. And I said to Craig, my old boss, well, how can I have that car? And he said, you know what? You can be really clever about the way you do it with your tax, Deb. Let me show you a formula. And I think he was the first one that opened my eyes to go, okay, well, if I can do that with a car, I bet there's other things I can do with property and other investments. I need to start getting a bit smarter and a bit more savvy in this area. And so he was probably the person that first kind of opened my mind. And very soon after that, I then started doing some personal coaching because I was going through a big transition in my life. I'd come out of a 10-year relationship and marriage, and, you kind of get to that sort of fork in the road and don't know what you want to do. And so I started seeing a coach as well. And I think, you come across these people that just, I guess, open your mind to think differently and think about other ways of doing things and challenge yourself on what you really want to do. And funnily enough, that coach that I worked with, all those years ago is now my business coach, and she has grown and developed and does different stuff now and has come a long way. So we both have. And so, yeah, definitely. And there's people you come across that I love working with people that inspire me. And I can't work with people that don't inspire me because you want to always strive for more. You want to always be better. Well, I do anyway. And, I always want to grow and I always want to develop. And even though sometimes you come across these challenges in life, whether it's personal or whether it's business, it shakes things up a little bit and it makes you think differently and it makes you wonder what else. And that's the thing I love working with coaches and mentors, and even my clients teach me things. You get to know people on a really personal level, and And I'm hungry for knowledge, and I'm hungry for new ideas and different ways of doing things. So I love learning, and I love to keep an open mind. So yeah, lots and lots of people I would say have influenced me, not just one person.
What is the most valuable thing your mentor or coaches or other people who have inspired you or you have learned?
Do you know what? I think it's self-belief. You know, I am a very confident woman on the outside.
What is inside?
The reality is we all have fears and we all have self-doubt. And, you know, I don't care who it is, whether it's Richard Branson or me, I'm sure he has fears and self-doubt too. And I think that it's accepting that that's normal and that's okay, but how you actually grasp that and work with that, I think is the most important thing, because it doesn't ever go away. There's always that little voice in your head that says, what if, but what if this doesn't work, and what are you going to do if it doesn't work? And, you know, I think you've really got to back yourself and trust that you know what you're doing, and trust that you're doing it for the right reasons and it works out. And you've just got to shush that little voice that goes on in the background. But I think it's there for all of us in reality.
Okay, so tell us beliefs about money, and what are they? What do you think people believe today?
Yeah. So this is really interesting, because I think we've all got so much stuff from our childhood and life that form these beliefs that we have about money. I love money, right? And when I say that to people, they look at me like I'm a weirdo. Like, what do you mean you love money? I love money. I love having money. I love money because I can go on holidays, I can buy nice things, I can live in a nice house, it gives you options, right? Now, I'm not saying money's the be all and end all, because it's not, but it's a nice thing to have because it gives you options. I've always had a belief about money, and this stems back to my childhood, and I think a lot of people have this: work hard and you'll earn money. And I think that that's something that my parents certainly instilled into me. And where I grew up, and I don't know if they have this where you are, that, you know, the soft drink bottles that you drink out of, you can get a refund. So some bottles were 20 cents, some were 10 cents, some were 5 cents. And when I was a kid, I love animals. I have this stupid love for animals, always have. And so I always wanted to buy a guinea pig or a bird or a rabbit or a turtle or something. And my mum said to me, well, you can have those things, but you've got to go and earn the money to pay to feed all these animals. So being the little entrepreneur that I was, I thought, right, and this was when I was about 7 or 8 years old, well, what can I do I can't get a job because I'm too young. I can do jobs around the house, but that's not going to be enough money for what I want. And one day we put the garbage out, and I noticed everyone was putting these bottles out the front for the recycling guy to come past. And I thought, I'm going to get my mum's market trolley, and I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to go around and collect everyone's bottles, and then I'm going to take them to the recycling depot and get the money. And I would get about $50 a month, right? I had hundreds of bottles. They were 5, 10 or 20 cents each, right? What I learned from that, though, is that I could actually have what I wanted if I could find a way to get that money. So my mum never, ever said no to having those animals because I had the money.
Wow.
So it seems so simple and so stupid, but at a young age, I learned that I actually can have whatever I want. I just have to find a way to get the money. And my mum still says to me to this day, if I say to her, Mum, I want to go and buy this, and she'll go, well, do you have the money? And I go, not right now, but I'll find a way. And she always says to me, and you will. And then I ring her and say, I got it. And she says, of course you did. So it's about, I guess, to me, it's just a matter of how to find that money. It's not, I don't have this belief around, well, I can't have it because I don't earn enough, and I only have a job that pays me this much money, so I'm never going to be able to do this. And the more you talk about that stuff, the more you believe it, because you get what you say in everything you do. And so you have to change your mindset. You have to think about, well, when I buy that, this is how I'm going to feel, and focus on how it's going to make you feel. And I don't know, something happens in this world that when you focus on what you want and it feels good, it comes to you. It really does. But you have to change your mindset around money and your beliefs.
But Debbie, some people have been really visualizing getting this job or starting their new business, and some of them they really go on 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. How long should we keep visualizing and wishing and hoping, Debbie?
Okay, so to me, it's not about visualizing and wishing and hoping. To me, it's about focusing on how it's going to feel. And you have to believe it. You have to believe it, because you can say, I'm visualizing and I'm thinking about how it's going to feel. So I always say to people when they ask me about this stuff, I want you to tell me about something that makes you feel really happy, right? And they'll come up with millions of different things.
Okay.
And then I'll say to them, doesn't it feel good when you think of that? And they go, yeah, that's how I want you to feel when you think about money. So it's you have to find something that feels good so you know what it feels like, right? Once you know what it feels like, then you can focus on it. But you've got to feel it and you've got to believe that feeling, because visualizing and thinking about it is not enough. You have to believe it and know what it feels like.
Wow. Tell us more about budget versus sacrifice or deprivation. What is that all about?
So everyone's got this whole stigma around the big B word for budget. And you know what? We all have to live on a budget. That's just a reality in life. And it goes back to me with talking about the animals as a kid and, saving that money so I could feed my animals and have my animals. And the reality is we do all have to have a budget. And one of the things I find with lots of clients is, they're saving to buy a house, and it's a dream for everyone to own their own home. And I'll often meet people, and particularly women are really bad at this. They'll say, I just can't save any money. And so I'll sit with them and I say, I bet you can. And they say, no, I can't save money. I don't earn enough money, blah, 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 blah. So I'll actually sit down with them and go, okay, let's have a look at what your monthly costs are. And when you actually write things down on paper, you can see some scary results, because we see money coming in and out of our bank accounts. And I think a lot of us live on credit cards these days, and we go, I'll just put it on my credit card and I'll pay it off when I get paid. But what happens is, because you're not using real money, there's a different mental transaction when you use electronic forms of payment, which I want to come back to and talk about in a sec, because I think that's really crucial. So when I sit down and we go through this budget, it's really surprising, because you'll sit there and say, do you realise that you're spending, let's call it for a smoker, do you realise that you're spending $7,000 a year on cigarettes? And they sit there and look at me and go, shit. And I'll say, I know. And then I'll sit with some females who are spending, 15 grand on clothes a year, or, and makeup and all of these things. And so I'll sit there and say, all right, so you like clothes shopping. I get it. What about if you just spent half what you spend now, and this would allow you to save this? So you can still buy stuff, but we're going to, sacrifice a little bit, balance it out a little bit. And so
Debbie, the shoes and the handbags, those ones you can't start sacrificing.
Well, you can sacrifice those, and you can be smarter about how you buy them. So, I never pay full price for anything, never.
Okay, tell one of the ladies if they are listening to this, or the partners, so they can help them.
All right, so when you go into a department store and you see a handbag and you go, oh my God, that's beautiful, I have to have it. And you walk out of that store, you think I can't afford it, you walk out of that store and all you think about is that damn handbag. And it happens to all of us. In fact, I had a pair of shoes the other day. I went interstate to see my sister, and I saw these amazing silver boots that look a little bit like something out of space. And I did not stop thinking about those boots for 2 weeks, to the point where I actually had to ring and get them to send them over to me where I live. And sometimes that happens, but that is probably one of the rare occasions I've paid full price for something. So what I'll always do is I'll just keep an eye on things. I'll look online to see if I can buy it cheaper, or I wait until those department stores have sales, because they always have sales. And you're getting 30, 40, 50% off. So I just think we can all have nice things, but why go and pay full price if you don't need to pay full price? We just need to be smarter, and we need to put our patient pants on, because often when we see things, we go, I must have that now.
Debbie, sometimes you can wait around, hang around, the size will be gone, or the color of the bag and the shoes will be gone, and you won't forgive yourself.
Well, I don't know about that because it's just a handbag at the end of the day. But I've also got a lot of friends that, they go to the opportunity shops, the second-hand shops, and they pick up some amazing brands of stuff. People sell things second-hand. People put things on eBay. They put things on online shopping sites. So, if you think outside the box, you can have what you want. And often you pick up amazing stuff that, the thing with retail is everyone's got the same things, right? Okay. So if you go and buy, second-hand things and things that are, not, we'll call them in vogue as in right now in the shop, you can pick up some really unique stuff that everyone else isn't actually going to have. So it gives you a bit of point of difference in your fashion.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success so far?
Do you know what? I think probably my attitude. To me, failing's not an option. Yes, there's those fears and those little voices that speak to us, but to me, I just think, I feel so lucky and privileged that I found something that I love doing. And I know there's so many people that don't have that luxury, and I so encourage them to be brave and do something about that. But you know what? I think the secret to success for me is I have a great attitude. I love what I do. I believe in myself and back myself. And so therefore, I get terrific reward. And I also take the time to be really grateful for what I have. Sometimes it's easy and I have my ups and downs. Some months I'll have amazing months financially. The next month it won't be so good. So, we all have this up and down. But when I have those downs, I have to trust that I'm doing the right things and maybe I need a little break, and that's why this is happening, and enjoy that break for a bit. And, I actually said to someone just this week, I'm going to be really crass. I said, I've got new clients coming out of my bum at the moment, and I've got so many at the moment, I don't know what to do with them all. And what an amazing problem to have.
Wow.
But last month I didn't have that problem. I didn't have enough clients. So, it comes in waves. And so you've got to be grateful for the good things. And when the other things happen that don't feel so great, you've got to ask why they're happening. Because I think everything that happens in life happens for a reason. And there's normally something for us to learn from the lessons that we get given. So, shitty stuff happens in my life too. And, though when you meet me and you go, oh, my God, she's always so upbeat and positive, and I am, that's right. But shit happens in my life too. And I can focus on that and I can stay in a down place that's not where I want to be, or I can focus on the good stuff. And so I choose to focus on the good stuff. So I think that attitude is so important to your success. And it's a real driver for, people love being around positive people. It makes you feel good. So, that's I want to hang around those sorts of people. So I want to be that person too.
Okay. What is the most valuable thing you have ever given away?
I think the most valuable thing I've given away is my time. And I used to, I did it for about 9 years. I met a young girl through a kids mentoring program that was focused on keeping kids at school. And what the program was a lot of kids that have come from some really crappy backgrounds. The young girl that I was working with had been sexually abused by her father. She had some learning difficulties, had trouble fitting in with kids at school. So she had a lot of struggles in her life. And so every week we would catch up, and we'd just catch up for an hour or 2 hours, and we'd, walk around the shops and have a look, or go for an ice cream, or, just go for a coffee and sit and chat, or we'd go for a drive somewhere or something. And the program was about, giving these young people someone that they can trust and someone that they can talk to about whatever they need to talk to about to get some guidance, and that not be a parent or a friend or someone, I guess, within their inner circle. So I did that for 8 years with this young woman, and she was 15, I think, 14 or 15 when we started. And, she she probably won't be that person that's going to be a highfalutin, successful businesswoman because she doesn't believe she will be. I think if she changed her belief, she would. But the thing that I loved about that as a gift was, yes, I was there to help her as a volunteer, but what she taught me was way more than what I could have ever given her. And what it did was exposed me to a world that I didn't have any exposure to, and taught me, I was very lucky. I had a very stable upbringing. My parents stayed together. I went to a good school, all of those things. It makes you realize when you work with these people that, I'm incredibly lucky to have those things that I had growing up. And a lot of people, it's not a given. A lot of people don't have those things. So she taught me about being grateful. She taught me about being gracious. She taught me to appreciate the wonderful things that happen in life. And sometimes those things are just little things. Sometimes those things are friendships. Sometimes those things are, the people in your family. And, I guess it just makes you have a bit of humility about life and the reality of not getting caught up in all that material stuff. So I think that's probably the biggest gift I've given, but I think she gave me a bigger gift in return by default.
Wow. Okay. Debbie, let's talk about your about the financial literacy and education. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so one of the things I found, and I didn't expect to find this when I started in this business, was, I help people borrow money to buy houses and cars. And I didn't expect, I just thought people knew about that stuff. I've always been quite good with money. And what I've learnt as a female is that's actually a unique quality. I learnt that a lot of women really struggle. A lot of women feel intimidated when they're dealing with males when it comes to financial stuff. And so I decided quite early on in my business that I didn't want it just to be about me helping people borrow money. I wanted people to understand the decisions they were making and why they were making those decisions. And that's where this whole education piece comes in, because mortgages are complicated. And sometimes I sit there with people and I can tell by the look on their face that it's so far out of their depth, they've got no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And so I'll sit to them and I'll say, the first thing we say when we sit down is, I've got a rule. And my rule is, if you don't understand something, you tell me. There are no stupid questions in this room. And of course you're not going to understand all of this because you don't work in this world like I do. So of course you're not going to understand this. And once they actually, I think, you kind of break that ice, all of a sudden there's this comfort level. And what I found with once I started doing that is there's so much they don't know. And it's not even just about the mortgages. It's about budgeting. It's about how to utilize equity in your property to invest. And you sit down with people and they sit and say, oh, I'd love to own my own home and have some investment properties. And this is where this whole create a wealthy life comes in, because to me it's about creating a life that, is financially, emotionally, all of those aspects of your life being wealthy. It's not just about money for me. And so when you start sitting down with them and saying, okay, well, tell me, what does 10 years look like? Have you even thought about that? Where do you want to be financially? And though I'm not a financial advisor as such, and I will always refer to these people to professionals to go and do that planning with them, what I do is open a door for them to even start thinking about it, because a lot of people just think now. They don't think ahead. And so I always think about, well, I do want to retire at some point, although I'm a workaholic, so I'm not quite sure what that would really look like. But at some point I want to have the choice to do, different things if I want to. So what does my financial position need to look like to get there? And there's a really big gap for most people because they're not thinking about that. They're just living from pay to pay or paying their mortgage every week, or they don't understand the, I guess the things they can have because they don't have the tools to understand that. And so that became a real passion for me to educate and give people this financial literacy and teach them about how to be smart with their money and the options that they have and what investments can do for them in property and all of those kinds of things. So it's become a real passion and people really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, they're getting free advice from someone. I've invested in property myself. I still do invest in property myself. I love property investing, but you'll talk to some financial advisors that don't love property investing. So everyone has different views. But to me, the essence of creating a wealthy life is about, I guess, setting myself up financially so that when I get older, I have choices.
Wow. Okay. So what type of clientele do you take on, Debbie?
Do you know what? I have a really mixed bag from, your first homeowner, in their late 20s right through to people that, are in their 50s or late 50s who own their house and they want to buy some investment properties. So they've got those, later on in life, or they want to leave them to their kids. So, I've got a really broad group of clients, which is really lovely. I tend to attract a lot of women into my business because I guess being a female and having that passion for that education, women like working with me because they don't feel intimidated like they do when they deal with men. And I never understood that because I don't feel intimidated by men. No one intimidates me.
Okay.
But what I did realize is that is a reality, and I think that's awful for someone to feel that way. So, a lot of women come to me, but of course a lot of them are married with partners. And I deal with single people, married people, same-sex couples. I had an appointment this week with a priest. So I have a really, really varied client base, which is wonderful because it keeps it really interesting and exciting.
Wow, you don't know who you are meeting tomorrow. Okay, so if someone wants to connect with you, you just only work in Australia? No, you're not thinking coming abroad?
Well, unfortunately, with all the credit rules, it's very hard for me to work internationally because the banking rules work very differently. So at this stage, yes, it's just Australia. Who knows what the future holds? I don't like to close any doors on any opportunities. But yeah, probably the best way to contact me would be through my website, which is www.createawealthylife.com.au. So you can, I've got lots of blogs on there, and even if you're not in Australia, there's still lots of articles in my blogs that I think people would definitely find interesting to have a read of.
Okay. So, clan, there will be more from Debbie in a moment. If you are finding Debbie's journey interesting and you are ready to hear more, come and listen to the full version of the interview at onlinesuccessjourney.com. If you are on Online Success Journey already, click on part 2 of Debbie's journey and you'll get lots of more information how to invest and the smart way to work your budget in the future. And don't forget, you can access all other Online Success Journey interviews on the site as well. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Debbie.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.